Okay, we're gonna start chapter 3. We talked a little bit about chapter 3 before. Three main topics there. The cell referencing. Oops. We're gonna talk about create name ranges and some of the functions. We're gonna take some basic functions, mainly 4 or 5 functions now. The assignments ask for 3 functions of them, so we're gonna cover them here. But we're gonna talk more about advanced functioning in lecture 5. So next lecture is gonna be charts. We're gonna take our first midterm. Then we're gonna go back to the functions again. We're gonna talk more advanced functions. The cell reference. This is a kind of like review from the last class. It's the column and the row, but also we have what you call the relative, the absolute, and the mixed references. So if you're fixing all the values, all the rows and columns in a reference, that's called absolute. If you're fixing some of them, so here we're fixing only the column, leaving the row is free. And here we're fixing the row, leaving the column free. This is called the mixed function. I don't know if you find this useful, but this is kind of difficult for me. And you can use F4 to alternate between these options. So if you go and open an Excel file, let's say you have a customers column. You have their basic salary. And you have an increase or adjusted. So you have customer 1 all the way down to customer 6. We're going to create a random numbers here, so it's going to be in between 1,000 and 4,000. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy the value, paste it as a value, so it won't change. I want to give each one like an increase, so we're going to give them 7% increase for each of them. Simply, I will go and make a function, a formula, sorry. I will tell this salary plus the same salary times the increase, right? You're taking the basic and you're adding 7% of that basic. And that will give you this amount. But what happens if I go and drag all the way down? If I apply this to all of them, you see, there were no changes there. Why is that? Because this was a relative reference. So if you go see, because we moved it down, these also moved down as well. Okay, so if you go all the way down there, we find another way to find that, right? Here's the formula. I'm going to show the formula. So you see, we copied this all the way down, but these kind of like follow it. We don't want that to happen. We want to fix that reference. What we can do here is go there. We're going to fix this one on this cell. Okay. Now, if I drag down, that red reference will stay there. Okay. This is called like a mixed referencing, because we're using a fixed one and a relative one. This is how we want it to look like. You can apply F4 to change that. I'm using a Mac keyboard here, so it might be a little bit difficult, but if you see here, if you highlight the cell and you go and click F4 with you can see that it goes over different modes. So this will fix both column and row. If you click again, that will fix the row. Oops. If you click again, that will fix the column. I will keep going. That's F4. So it's very useful, very good to understand. We have something different called name range. You can do the same thing with fixing a column. You can give an actual name to a cell. For example, this one is C3, okay? You wanted to give it another name, you just go there and type another name. Let's say we say percentage, okay? And you click enter. You give a name to that cell. So it's not C2, it's not C3, it's still referenced as C3, but you can reference to it as percentage. So if you go there and change the value here to percentage, just multiply that by percentage, you can see it appears among the functions. If you click on that one, and enter, it's going to be there. All right, so you go ahead and apply all the way down. You still have that percentage reference there. You can see all the name ranges from here. So if you go to formula, name manager, you can see that you apply this one. You can edit it. You can add new ones here. You can delete it. If you use it and you don't want to continue using it, you can just go and delete. You can name one cell or a group of cells. So you can give a name to everything. You say, I want to name this as a basic salary. Okay, so you select all of them, and you go there and say basic salary. Okay, so individually they are regular cells, but all together going to be in one range name. You can do also something nicer if you have like a column like this. So imagine like you have 20, 30 columns, and you want to name every range as its top. So what you're going to do is that you're going to select all of them, and you go and click this option, create from selection. And it will tell you that I want to use the name at the top to name the ranges at the bottom. Okay, so you click the top row, and you click OK. What happens now is that if you select those, you're going to find they are customers. If you select those, they are now basic salary. And if you select those, there are adjusted salary. So it will do it for you. There are some limitations. You cannot use spaces. That's why you see we use a space here, but there they will just put the underscore just to connect the words. These are some of the limitations down there. You cannot start with a number. You cannot name it as a cell reference. You cannot go here and say, I want to name this as B1. That would confuse Excel. And if you go again here and click name manager, you're going to see that you created all these names. Okay. This is the same cell. Questions so far? These are two minor things, but they will have a great impact on you if you work on any file or any document. Any question before we start functions? Yeah.
So we got the name of the cell, right? Right in the corner.
Okay.
So how do you name our whole column with that name in the other cell?
So you want to name the whole column?
With the name, for example, the 7%.
Okay. So now here we applied an individual naming. So you just click there and change the name. All right. That's one thing. But let's say you have another column here, which are like numbers, okay? Whatever numbers they have, and you want to name them all together. If you select them all and you just give them a name, that's it. You don't have to do anything else. So you see here, num, for example, and I'll just give it a name, okay? So individually, they have their own references, but all together, they're gonna have the name that you give, okay? But in this example was, think about like you have 20 columns, okay? And instead of selecting each column individually and putting a name there, you're gonna select the whole, oops. You're gonna select the whole table and you go and create from selection, okay? So in that one, you will tell Excel that I wanna use the top row. Sometimes you might use the left row if you have like names there. But if you, in this example, you want to select the top row as the name range for anything below, anything beneath, okay? So if you apply that, Excel will do that for you. So these are still regular references, but if you select them all, you're going to see they represent customers. It's the same column name. Here, because we used space in between, and a field name doesn't allow space. So if you see that, they add an underscore there. It's kind of like, it do that automatically, okay? Functions. If you say to anyone like, I studied Excel, and he asks you, did you learn about function? And you say no, you never experienced Excel before. Function is the core, tools in Excel. Functions go this way, so this is the function name. We've used few functions before. We used the sum, we used the maximum, we used the minimum, we used the total. So it starts with the function name. So if I told you here, what is the function name of, will you use something here? Okay. I want to see the total of all salaries there. So I'm just gonna go and say sum. Sum is the function name. Then I'm gonna go and select all these values. Close it. You see that when I selected all the values, it didn't give me the range. It gave me the field name. See that? It's kind of like easier here to do. If you want to see, let's say here you say the total. Say you want to see the average. Okay, so you go there and select equal, average, you open parentheses and you start typing. So you know it's called adjusted. So if you do adjust, you can see that it's automatically give you the name that we created. If you selected that one, close the parentheses, it will give you the average. Okay, so we have many functions there. We're gonna go over a few of them. This is kind of like a fixed reference. So if you try to drag that to the next one, still will use the adjusted salary. You don't want that, right? Because here you're using the adjusted salary. Now you drag it here, it will still use the adjusted salary. It won't shift with you. So you have to go there and change the names to the next column. It's basic, and you start to tell you the basic salary. I will give you now the total for the next column. So this is the function name. Then we call it arguments in between. So sometimes you put numbers, sometimes you put text. Each function has its own way to do it, but you can see that if you start typing a function, it will give you some suggestions. So if you select this one, it will tell you that you should enter a number, okay? So I want to see the maximum of all these numbers, okay? And maybe not all of them. Maybe I just want to see the maximum among those. So because I didn't complete the whole column, it will just give me the reference. So I can see the maximum from these numbers, which is This was useful. We used it before, show formulas. So instead of showing the results, you can just see the formulas inside the cells. So function name, then arguments in between, parentheses. This is important. If you didn't close the parentheses, you'll get some errors. We're going to go through some errors, common errors in Excel. You have functions for many things. You have database, you have financial. If you go to any sheet there, you go to formula, you would cite some categories there for the functions. Or if you click on this button at the function bar, by default, you would see the recent ones that you used before. So those ones, like common ones that you used. You can click on this drop-down menu. You can see all of the other functions. You have financial functions. If you're in finance, it's going to be very useful for you. Let's take an example of a math function. We used rand between before. You're familiar with that, right? So this function will generate a random number between two numbers. So you give them the bottom number and the top number. So if you go there and say equal rand between, I will tell you now, put the bottom number. So that's a great hint down there. So I want the bottom number to be at 10. Once you start click the comma, it will jump to the next argument. It will tell you put the top number. Okay, that's a great hint there. So I want 100. Then I close the parentheses. I click enter. I'll just give you a random number. I can change that random number by F9. So every time it'll give me a different number. Okay? If you click F9, you'll get a different number between 10 and 100. Okay. Integer, this will round the number to the nearest integer. You can try some of them. These functions used for statistics, so we use maximum and minimum. I think the assignment will ask you for the median. It's the same thing. So if I want to see the median number of those salaries, I'll just go and create. I'll take median. I will show the function for me. And then I will select the range. Click enter and see that the median number. These functions useful for dates. I think the assignment will ask you for dated F. Dated F will count the number of days between two dates, including those two dates. So it's inclusive. Let's say, oops. Let's say those started at this date and end at this date. So those, for example, started at 9/3/2015. And they ended kind of like 1/1/2016. I'm going to change a few numbers here and there. Okay, and you want to see the period, how many days they spent between the start and end. So you go and click dated F, and you select day 1 and the day 2. Oops. Okay. So you select the dates between, but also you need to specify if you want the number of days or the number of months or the number of years. So if you want the number of days, you put them in between quotes. So you say D, okay? That will show you the number of days. Okay. Do I need that?
It has to be the end first or
I think it doesn't matter. Is it day? Oops. There's a, use the function name correctly. Yes, it doesn't see the function. That's weird. Used that before, so you simply can click can create a formula, this minus that, and we'll just calculate the number of days. But for a reason, it doesn't see the function. Oh. Anyone can get the function in? Can you type the function inside?
we want the parentheses after.
But can you see the function dated f? Because it doesn't show up here. So, see, I can't see the function. Ah.
We wanted to see that.
Let's check that. Okay, so you get the function. I know what I did. You have to start with the start date and end date. Yeah. The students can see the function, but I don't know, I can't see it there. But you put the start date and the end date. So let's say dated F. This is the start date. This is the end date. This is supposed to be adding a D there, so you want to see the number of days. Oh, it's working. It worked. Okay. So you put the first date there, the second, the end date there, then you can specify how you're going to see the numbers. So you're going to see it in days. If you added M there, you can see months. There's like 3 months. And if you added Y, you can see it as years. So it's still a 0 year because you didn't complete a year. If you go there and added, if you make that 10, you can see it's 1 year. You can drag down and see. Okay. Time function. Now, this one doesn't have any argument, so it's very nice. If you want to see the date and time now, you just go and click now. Oops. I will print the date and time for you. And this will keep changing if you leave it like that. Every minute you're gonna have a different number. So you're gonna keep it there and watch it for. It will change if you click F9, I think. Text functions, you can also add text. For example, concatenate. That's use that a lot. Sometimes you have let's say first name. You have a last name. You have two of these columns. So if you say here Donald and this is Trump. It's crazy, this guy, right? He insults the whole Americans and they clap for him. It's like America's not great. I'm like, oh yeah. So if you want full name, so if you wanna concatenate all the first and last name there, this is a great function for you. Concatenate. So you put the text1 and text2 there. So you go and say equal concatenate. That's one. And you put name1, name2, close the parentheses. And you're gonna get something like that. You don't want that, right? You want a separation between the two numbers. So what you're gonna do is that you're gonna add a space. And by adding a space, you're adding quotes, space, quote, and a comma. So now you have three texts. You have text, so the first name, name number one. You have a space, and you also have a name too. Okay, you click enter. You're gonna find the full name. Okay. If you didn't add the space, or if you didn't add the quotes, Excel doesn't understand that as a space. So you have to add the double quotes and add a space in between. You want to say and, which doesn't make sense, but you want to do that. You can see the and in between. But you don't want any words there. You just want a simple space inside. Note that if you are here, if you're trying to edit something, if you go and click anywhere else, it will add that reference there. So if you go by accident and you click here, oops, that didn't work. If the function expects a name or something, if you click there, you're gonna see you're adding a reference there. So you make sure that if you are in the function, you want to navigate outside, you just click enter. I'm not gonna cover this. You can read these in your own time. The lookup, we're gonna go through the lookup functions later, maybe chapter 5. Very useful. Financial, what is it? PMT. These financial terms, if you're not familiar with financial finance, sorry. This is a great function, payment. So if you take a loan from a bank, you want to know how much you're going to pay every month, right? Nowadays, you have these kind of like own calculators. But if you want to create your own calculator using Excel, you use the function called PMT. This is in the assignment, so I recommend that you follow attention here. If you have a loan, which is a number, let's say 100,000. Okay, you want to take up as a loan. We're going to make that as a currency. And you have interest. So they will tell you we're going to charge you 5% a year. And you have to pay that, let's see, period, in 5 years. Okay, these are in years. And you want to know how much you're going to pay every month. Okay, so you want to know if you're taking 100,000 with interest of 5%, you have to pay it back in 5 years. How much you're going to pay? This is the function called PMT. So equal PMT open. So it will tell you the rate first. So I'll tell them the rate is 5%. I will tell you about the period. So you're going to pay it in 5 years. And you also, the present value, or the value is 100,000. And you close it and enter. You see that that's a huge number. That's not what you want. Right? It's like 23,000, and it's in red because you have to pay. You're not getting it. So in order to get the order of the red color, you go there and add a minus sign. That will make it positive. You add a minus sign there, click enter. This will make it look like a positive number. But still, you're seeing the payments here in year because you're seeing the interest is 5% a year, and you're paying it at 5 years. So these are the yearly payments. You don't want that. You want it to see it as a month. So what you have to do, option 1, you create another column, and you say this one is this value divided by 12, so you want it in a monthly basis. And this one is the years times 12, which is 60 months. And now if you apply the function, it will make sense. So we're going to add the negative sign, PMT, and this is the rate. This is the period, and this is the present value. So you're paying 1,800 something a month. But you can combine all of this in one place. You don't have to do that. So you go there and you want, this is the interest. So this interest, you divide it by 12. Okay, so you're editing the function. And this is the period. You're gonna multiply that by 12. So you're editing the argument inside, and you click enter. Okay, so instead of doing all of these, you'll just kind of adjust it from the inside. So you don't have to actually create a new column. Okay. So you will know if you're taking 100,000 and with this interest, you're going to pay this amount every month. And if you create your own calculator. Logical operators, this is how less than or equal or greater than or equal represented in Excel. So you put them next to each other. A very important function is if function. Anyone familiar with if function? Used if function before? Good. If function is very common. This is the how it looks like. So if, then you have arguments inside. It's simple, 3 arguments, 1, 2, and 3. So you put an logical test there and you say, if something is true, return this value. If this is not true, return another value. So this is simply what it says. So if, for example, this cell is greater than 5, return this value here. If it's not, return this value here. 3 arguments, very easy. Okay, so let's say I want to see who are underpaid. So let's say we say cutoff is 2,500. Okay, so I want to see if anyone having salary over 2,500, that means he's getting a high salary. Anyone getting below 2,500, he's getting a low salary. Okay, so I'm gonna go here and create a condition. I'm gonna say if and open. if the adjusted salary greater than or equal this value, I want you to return high, the word high. So you put it under between quotes. Okay? If it's not, I want you to return low. Okay? You click enter. So this is high because this is over. Let's get rid of these things. So this is high because it's over the value. But now I want to fix the G, this value here, that G value there, because it's always there. So I'm gonna fix that one. I'm gonna make this relevant. I'm gonna drag down all the way down. So you can see those two are high because they are above 250, but those are below because they are below 50. So you can see low and high.
Can you show what you're taking to the final again?
Yeah, this is the formula. So this is the condition. This is the first argument. So you differentiate between arguments because of the commas. So this is argument 1, this is argument 2, this is argument 3. Okay, the argument 1 is the condition. If something is greater than something, if something equals something, if something, and we can see another functions called and or. So you can combine multiple conditions, but this is a very simple if function. So this is the argument. If this is correct, if this is true, then it will return this value, high. If this is not correct, it will return this value. Okay? So if true, this value. If not true, this value. Okay? Try it out and see if you can replicate that. This is a very important function. Okay? The reason that you put the codes because we use the field name, these ones here. If you don't put the codes, Excel will think these are field names. Trying to look it up and didn't find it, will return an error. That's why we put codes for text. You don't have to, we put the cutoff point here. If I change the cutoff point, I would say above 3,000. Click enter. We still, let's go down. So let's say 2,000. Now we have different conditions. We'll have 4 highs and 2 lows. Okay? If you want to apply that, the naming thing, so you can go there and say condition. Let's say. You go there. And instead of putting the value there, you just put the name. I will still do the same thing. So you can apply the 3 concepts together here. Every time I will change the value here, I want to see if it's 1,000 and everyone is high. It's at 4,000. Everyone is low. This is some of the errors that you might find during creating a function. They're like useful to know where you went wrong. So these are references there, so you can read them. Name, for example. If you mistakenly forget codes there, you'll have a name problem. So it'll tell you that's something inside here is not correct. So because you're using a reference does not exist. There's no low reference there. If you click down there, there's no low reference. So it thinks that this is a reference. So by correcting that, you just go and add double quotes. And then it will work. Okay. These are other famous errors. Ref, value. You can go and read these if you want to understand why. Why you're getting these errors. And that's it for today. We'll go back to the lookup function. I'm just going to give you an lookup function. It's kind of like a search tool. You can build your own search tool inside Excel. So if you say customer and salary. So think about like you have 1,000 names in one column. You want to search for someone. You want to see how did this guy get in salary. So you can create something called lookup function. So if you want to see customer, think about this as names, but let's say cust4, and you want to see the salary. You just type the name of the guy or the name of the person, and you just see its salary. So you can go and create something called VLOOKUP as a function. When you open a parenthesis, it will ask you where I should look up, which value I should look up. So you want to say, I want you to look up this value, and it will tell you where. So you will tell them in this table. So I want you to look for the name and the salary. Okay. And the third argument will tell you which column you want me to return. So if you put 1, it will return the same column, but you want to return the salary. So you put column 2. I will give you its salary. So customer 4, this is salary. So if you go there and say, no, I want to see customer 1, I will give you its salary. Okay. Think about this. So you're having different names and different, many names. So 6, I will give you the salary of 6. And like you're building your own search tool inside Excel. Index and match, it's something similar, but we're going to talk about them in detail in Chapter 5. Chapter 5, mainly, we're going to talk about the VLOOKUP, index, and match, and if functions. We have something called nested functions in F. So if you say, if something is greater than this, then you don't want to return a value. You want to return another function, which is an if function. So you say, if this is greater than this, then do that. If something else is greater than that, then do something. So you can combine if statements inside together. That's in Chapter 5. We also can use and or. I'll just give you a heads up here. If you want to say, if something is greater than this and something else is greater than this, you want two conditions together. You cannot use, for example, if this equals or greater than 1,000, you take and, okay? You cannot do that. In Excel, and is another function. So inside the if function, use another function called and. You build another function inside the if function. And you open a parenthesis and you put two logics. So you would say if the salary is greater than, let's say 1,000, and the same salary or the adjusted salary is greater than, it's 3,000. Okay, if all of this is true, then what's the true value? Going to be high. Otherwise, it's going to be low. So what we did there is that instead of saying just one condition, if something is equal to something, we use two conditions. If something and something is true. It's not only one, it's just two. So if this is greater than 1,000 and this is greater than 3,000, then high and low. If this is all true, you're going to return high. If it's all false, so if this is high and this is low, this is false. So we'll go to the low. The same thing, you can use or. Okay, so if either this value is greater than 1,000 or this value is greater than 3,000, either one of them is true, return this value. If neither one is true or both true, then low. Okay? Okay, I'm done here. Questions? Stop.